What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Something a little different for you today. We've got our NBA Logo Association list. So what we're doing is we're going through each team, and when we think of their logo, who's the first player that comes to mind. So let's start with our first team.
Yeah, so we're going to go in alphabetical order by city. So let's start with the Atlanta Hawks. I'll let you kick it off.
The Atlanta Hawks, he may not be the greatest Hawk of all time, but he's the first one that comes to mind, Trae Young. I think of Trae Young when I think of the Hawks.
Okay. Well, for me, the way I'm going to go about all of this, I'm thinking GOATs here.
Okay.
And the guy who brought them their only ring is Bob Pettit.
Okay.
He did that with St. Louis, to be fair, but
Yeah.
still the Hawks organization. So, yeah, I go with Bob Pettit. It was hard for me not to pick Dominique Wilkins.
See, Dominique Wilkins is the next guy, but I think Trae is so fresh.
Yeah, that's fair.
Fresh in the memories right now. Arguably, you could argue that this was their great. I know they didn't win, but you could argue that this was their greatest team that they've put out there. And I think eventually Trae will go down as the greatest Hawk of all time.
He can. He definitely can. For now, I still think, for me at least, it's between Pettit and Wilkins.
Okay.
Boston Celtics. This one was tough. It's two guys for me. I wanted to go with Larry Legend, but I went with Bill Russell.
Oh, you didn't? See, I went with Larry Bird.
Yeah.
I get that Bill Russell has 11 rings.
Yeah.
Obviously, 10, one on each finger and then one in the teeth. So, but I don't know. Larry Bird, Magic Johnson kind of revitalized the game of basketball.
Yeah.
So that's what I look
totally
for.
Fair.
So I think of Larry Bird.
It's a toss-up for me.
Yeah.
It was really tough to pick one over the other.
Yeah.
And Brooklyn's kind of in a situation like Atlanta for me, where I picked their legend from the New Jersey days in Jason Kidd.
Oh, okay. See, if I'm thinking the Nets, I think of Vince Carter or Jason Kidd. Okay. But when I think of the Brooklyn Nets, I think of Kevin Durant.
Okay.
Because this was the best team. They arguably, if he had not had his big toe on the line, they were a big toe away from a title.
Yeah.
So I think of Kevin Durant. He's the greatest Brooklyn Net of all time. Maybe not the greatest net of all time. Yeah. But he'll go down as the franchise best player to ever play for that organization.
Charlotte, another one where it's not a rich history.
No, this one was a little tougher to draw off of.
Yeah, I almost went with Michael Jordan just because he's their owner, but I ended up going with Kemba Walker.
That's who I went with, too.
I think it's pretty easy to pick him.
Honorable mention to Del Curry. I did think of Del Curry, but I thought of Kemba first.
Yeah. Glenn Rice,
yeah.
Guys like that. And Chicago, Michael Jordan.
Andreas Nocioni. No, obviously.
Yeah,
Michael
no
Jordan.
need to explain. Same with Cleveland, LeBron James.
Yeah, I went with LeBron James too on that one.
No reason to explain. Dallas, again, I don't think there's much reason to explain. It's Dirk Nowitzki, for me at least.
Yeah,
could be Luka.
Yeah, it's Nowitzki.
It may be Luka in the future. They just need to.
I don't think it'll ever get there because I don't think Luka will ever be what Dirk was. At least to the Mavericks. Mm-hmm. Dirk took that Mavericks team from a team that didn't really do anything. Dirk Nowitzki came in, brought them their only title, 2 finals appearances.
Yeah, that's fair. We'll see, but I think it's Dirk, and it's pretty safe. Yeah. For now, at least. Denver. I was looking for other guys because I didn't want to say Melo.
They don't have that rich of a history either.
But Melo, he's my guy for Denver. Who'd you go with?
I went Jokic.
Oh.
Only guy to win an MVP for them.
Okay.
Arguably, I think Jokic is better than what Melo was when he was with Denver.
Yeah,
I think
he's totally fair.
I think right now you could say he's the best Nets player or Nuggets player, not Nets. I got the Brooklyn Nets still in my head. I think he's the best Nuggets player of all time.
You know what? Yeah.
He's got the most accolades there. My mind goes to Jokic.
That is a good point.
Yeah.
Wow. I wasn't even thinking of him. My backup was David Thompson.
Well, sometimes you start thinking of like all time, and you forget the guys that are there right now that are making it.
Because I went through and I was looking at guys that I felt were good right now.
Yeah.
And I guess I definitely did overlook Jokic there. I'm willing to change my stance.
Carmelo's not a bad pick. He was a guy. He was the next guy I was thinking of.
Yeah. Detroit, I think it's got to be Isaiah Thomas.
Yeah, that's who I went with. It's the obvious pick. Got their 2 rings there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Golden State, they've had surprisingly a bunch of legends. You look at Wilt, as one of them, but it's Steph Curry.
It has to be. He's greatest warrior of all time.
And they're the second most profitable franchise next to the New York Knicks. So they've surpassed Boston. They've surpassed the Lakers.
A lot of people don't realize just how bad Golden State was before that time. Like, they had their They
were like the Charlotte Hornets.
They had the team to believe in with Baron Davis, and they had Chris Mullin, but they were bad when Chris Mullin was there. It's Steph Curry's franchise.
Yep.
So.
Yep, definitely. Houston, there were a couple.
Yeah.
I almost went with Yao Ming because I didn't want to choose between Harden and Olajuwon, but I think it's got to be Olajuwon. He got them their two rings.
See, I went with Yao Ming.
Oh, really?
Well, because he's just a freak of nature at 7'6". Like, it's just, you think of him, you're like, the giant tower standing in front of the net. And I mean, maybe it's just you've heard a lot of the relationship with him and Shaq. I've heard a lot of that recently, so that's kind of fresh in my head. Mm-hmm. Obviously, Hakeem is the greatest Rocket of all time. Yeah. You could argue that Harden's up there too. Yeah. But I think of Yao Ming when I think of the Rockets.
No, that's totally
something
fair,
no one's ever seen before. A 7'6" guy playing in the league.
And he was one of the guys in my younger years when I wasn't invested in basketball. He was the guy I looked up to.
Yeah.
Now, Indiana, it was hard. I really wanted to pick PG-13, but I think we both picked Reggie Miller.
Yeah. Greatest pacer of all time. I don't think there's much question. Paul George didn't even come into my mind when I was thinking of him. It's Reggie Miller.
Yeah. The Los Angeles Clippers, I went with CP3.
Oh, I went with Blake Griffin. Same era.
Oh, okay.
Blake Griffin brought that flair to, like the Warriors. They were a terrible team.
Yeah, he was definitely the face of that franchise, like the marketable guy.
I think he was the tipping point, too. Mm-hmm. Chris Paul helped, but I think once they got Griffin, I think he was that tipping point of he took them over the edge to be a perennial playoff team.
Oh, I would say more marketable. They weren't necessarily
marketable too, but
from a marketing standpoint, he was the guy that made them a better business. He was the
poster boy of Lob City.
Yeah, very true. The Lakers, this was really tough.
This one was a tough one.
This is
storied franchise.
Far and away the hardest one.
Yeah.
Jerry West, honorable mention. But it's between Kobe and Magic.
Yeah.
You go first.
I went with Magic.
I also went with Magic. I didn't want to be...
Same argument for Larry Bird, though.
Yeah.
They weren't even showing they were showing the finals games before they came into the league on tape delay. They weren't even live televised finals until these guys came in.
Yep.
Completely rejuvenated the NBA. It's got to be Magic Johnson's the greatest Laker of all time.
Yep.
But honorable mention to Kobe Bryant. Even LeBron James is kind of making a name for himself in LA.
For me, LeBron's probably fifth. I want to go Kobe, but I'd have to go Magic, Kobe, Jerry West, or Kareem.
I go Kareem, then Jerry West.
Either or for me, but
actually, I'd probably go LeBron, then Jerry West fifth. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Memphis, Marc Gasol.
Yep. Greatest Memphis player. I mean, if we're thinking of
in the future,
if we're thinking of the Vancouver Grizzlies, it's Bryant Big Country Reeves.
Well, I don't even have no idea what you're talking about.
I don't even know if that's his actual name. I'm actually going to look this up for you guys right now.
Yeah.
Because I think I may have.
Is that what they call Marc Gasol?
Yeah, Bryant. His first name's Bryant Big Country Reeves. That's his
country name.
His nickname's Big Country. But he was supposed to be the turning point in that Vancouver franchise.
Oh, and then
or one of the guys, and then he just wasn't that good. And then, they only stayed for a few years, and then they were in Memphis.
Nice. Miami Heat, I think this one's easy.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at LeBron, but it's D. Wade.
Yeah. LeBron's got the Cavs. Dwayne Wade has an entire county in Florida named after him. So
yeah.
I mean, even though he doesn't own them, he owns the Utah Jazz. It's Dwayne Wade for Miami.
Yep. Now, for Milwaukee, I didn't want to overlook Giannis here.
Yeah.
I think he has the potential to be that guy.
Yeah.
Also, shout out Oscar Robertson, but it's Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Oh. You went with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Who'd you go with?
I went with Giannis.
Oh.
See, because when I think of Kareem, I think it's because when I think of Kareem, I think of the Lakers.
Oh, okay.
Because when he was with Milwaukee, he was Lou Alcindor. It was before he had changed his name. And you don't normally think about the Bucks in the 70s. They were a good team in the 70s, but I would think of Oscar Robertson before I thought of Kareem.
Okay.
I think Kareem was just so synonymous with the Lakers but at the end of the day, I think of Giannis. I think it's just because they won the title this year too.
Yeah.
Their first title since 71. So, yeah, I go with Giannis because I think at the end of the day, he will be the greatest Bucks player of all time. He's got 2 MVPs, NBA title, Defensive Player of the Year. The accolades are stacking up.
The only area where that's tough for me is I felt Kareem being probably the 3rd best player of all time. Yeah. Having his best
greatest
years.
scorer of all time.
Yeah.
It's not a bad pick.
Having his best years in Milwaukee, that's what did it for me.
No, it's a good pick.
Minnesota, easy. Kevin Garnett.
Yep, that early MVP in the 2000s. Ended his career there too, so
yeah. New Orleans, it was between AD and CP3 for me. Yeah. Another CP3 pick, just because of how south the AD era ended.
You see, I go Anthony Davis because when I'm thinking Pelicans, it's Davis. But if I'm thinking New Orleans Hornets, it's Chris Paul, it's David West, it's Peja Stojakovic. But in terms of the Pelicans, Anthony Davis.
Okay, fair enough. New York Knicks, I went with Walt Frazier.
Oh.
Got them their only 2 championships. Otherwise, I would have gone with Patrick Ewing, but...
I went with Carmelo.
Oh?
I went with Carmelo. Honorable mention to Patrick Ewing. Patrick Ewing is the greatest Knick of all time, but I went with Carmelo. I don't know. There was such fanfare around his homecoming that I always remember. A dark horse here, if some people probably think Jeremy Lin. Because again, he took the world by storm. Like no one had seen a 10-game stretch like that ever. Just for how out of nowhere it came. Yep. But no, I go with Carmelo.
Okay, fair enough. OKC was a tough one for me. I really wanted to go with Russ as he was the guy who really brought me into the NBA as a fan, but I went with Kevin Durant.
Yeah, so did I. So that's the second Durant pick for me.
Yep. Orlando, I may have snubbed Shaq here, but I went with Penny Hardaway.
Oh,
I just think the Penny Hardaway jersey is legendary.
Penny Hardaway, next to Shaq, Penny Hardaway might be the greatest Magic player of all time. I went with Dwight Howard, though.
Yeah, I thought of Howard, but it wasn't enough for me.
Yeah.
76ers, I went with the NBA's icon, the guy who kind of changed the way players acted off the court, and Allen Iverson.
So did I. Almost went with Embiid there.
Really?
Yeah, he came in.
I had Dr. J and Moses Malone before I had Embiid.
Yeah, see, Dr. J probably would have been third for me. But yeah. I went with Iverson, but my mind was also going to Embiid too, but it had to be Allen Iverson.
Now, Phoenix, shout out Charles Barkley, but it's got to be Steve Nash.
2 MVPs, you can't beat that.
Cannot beat that. Portland was really, really tough. I wanted to rationalize picking Clyde Drexler, but it has to be Damian Lillard.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Even right now, he's the greatest trailblazer. And they had some good teams, but, him, you could say Arvydas Sabonis, but I would go with Damian Lillard for sure.
Yep. Now, Sacramento, here's where I went with Oscar Robertson.
Okay.
That's really it for me. I don't know if there needs to be much explanation.
Oh, I went with Chris Webber.
I don't even know who that is, to be honest with you.
Oh, Chris Webber on those early 2000s teams. Those Kings teams were good. They pretty well got snubbed.
Yeah.
Some questionable calls by referees. They almost made the finals. I think it was 2002 or 2001.
Okay.
One of those years. Probably would have won it too. I go with Chris Webber because it was a good team.
Okay.
Those teams were good.
Okay.
So yeah,
I'll take you for your word. San Antonio, Tim Duncan.
Yep.
Pretty easy.
No debate there. Yeah.
Now Toronto, I want to save for last because that's where we are.
Yeah.
Let's move on to Utah.
Yeah.
So an easy pick. They can't be Karl Malone. I went with John Stockton.
See, I went with Karl Malone, and I think those are the only 2 reasonable picks you can.
You could go either or.
Don't tell Stephen A. Smith that, because apparently to him it's Donovan Mitchell. Apparently he's the greatest player in Jazz history there. But, I mean, where's his finals appearance? Where are his accolades?
Yep.
Nothing against Donovan Mitchell, but he's not there yet. He hasn't played long enough.
Not yet.
To say that he's the greatest player in Jazz history, it's ridiculous at this point. Could he be? Yes, he could be.
Malone and Stockton are both top 5 all time in their respective positions. So
yeah,
Donovan
Karl
Mitchell
Malone's the second highest scorer of all time.
Yeah.
John Stockton leads the NBA in total assists.
Yep.
So
it was a great tandem, and
if the Bulls didn't exist, they would have had a couple rings.
Yep. And then Washington went with Alvin Hayes, another team with a little weaker of a history. I almost went with John Wall, but
see, I did go with John Wall.
Okay.
It was such a phenomenon when he was drafted. You know, he had his own song, he had his own dance. Like it was John Wall put Washington back on the map.
Yeah, that's
honorable
fair.
mention to Gilbert Arenas, but the guy's kind of a clown. So,
and then let's end with the Toronto Raptors.
Yeah,
4 guys here. When we were growing up, Vince Carter was the guy.
Yeah,
Kawhi was the best player when they won a ring.
Yeah.
DeMar DeRozan, if you go through Toronto, I'm sure he's probably the highest selling in terms of jerseys.
Yeah.
But I think it's got to be Kyle Lowry.
Oh. See, I went with Vince Carter.
Oh, okay.
Kyle Lowry will probably go down as the greatest Raptor of all time.
Mm-hmm. But not in terms of play. Without
Kawhi Leonard, though, they don't win a ring.
Yeah.
And without Vince Carter, they might not even be in Toronto anymore.
Yep.
Because Vince Carter, without him, that Raptors team is nothing. He really put Canadian basketball on the map.
Yeah.
He revolutionized what it was to be a basketball player in Canada.
Yep.
Overall, he's the most polarizing player ever to play in Toronto. And yeah, I think up until Kyle Lowry, he was the greatest Raptor of all time.
Vince Carter, I think, again, outside of Kawhi, was the best player to ever play for the Raptors.
Yeah.
He's better than DeMar. He's better than Lowry.
And I think if Kawhi had at least played one more year there, I think my mind would have gone to Kawhi.
Yeah.
Because my mind goes Carter, then Kawhi, and then I think of Kyle Lowry.
Okay.
And then DeRozan and Bosh.
Yeah. Yeah, honorable mention Bosh.
Yeah. With that, that'll do it for our NBA Team Association list. Thanks for watching, guys. If you like the video, give it a like down below. Subscribe so you don't miss any of our other uploads. Comment down below who you think of when you think of certain teams and what you think of our thoughts. And with that, we will see you in the next episode. Peace.